Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. May I have your attention, please? Before we begin this meeting, we ask that everybody silence your cell phones. The Fort Bend ISD Board of Trustee meetings an open meeting to the public to address the board, observe the board conducting district business. Therefore, audience members may address the board during the designated item section on the agenda. If you have any printed materials you want to give to the board, you must provide them to the board secretary, Norma Perez, or to me, and we will provide them to the board. We also ask members of the audience be respectful of others, remain quiet during the meeting so that everyone is able to hear the proceedings. For your convenience, microphones have been provided on both sides of the boardroom. Please speak directly into the microphones if you're asked to answer a question or address the board during the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Officer Ontiveros. The time is 6 p.m. and this meeting is hereby called to order. We have the presence of a quorum, and the meeting has been duly called, and notice of the meeting has been posted for the time and manner required by law. Please rise for the pledges of allegiance and remain standing for the silent invocation.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please face the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to the Texas, one state under God, one and indivisible.
Please remain standing for a silent invocation. Thank you. You may be seated. First up are recognitions. Dr. Dupree.
Yes, sir. If the board would join me in front of the dais, we'll recognize our fine pledge leaders this evening.
Mr. President, Dr. Dupree, members of the board, we have two outstanding young men from Commonwealth Elementary. Could we please have Ozzy Ahmed, 5th grade student council president, and Ishan Shetty, 4th grade student council vice president, to come forward. These two gentlemen were selected for displaying all of the attributes associated with the district's profile of a graduate. Thank you so much. You gentlemen did a fantastic job. Let's give them another round of applause. Those concludes our recognition for this evening.
Next, we have audience items. Is Billy Kane with us? Sir, you're going to have 3 minutes. Mr. Rosenthal is going to give you a 30-second warning.
I have some papers, but I don't know who to give them to.
Officer Ontiveros right there behind you.
Timer ready? Hi, my name is Billy Kane. I'm with a nonprofit up in Austin called Radical Empathy Education Foundation, and what we do is we use a blended in-school curriculum alongside a virtual reality experience that allows kids to understand the dangers of growing up in today's society, whether it's everything from going online and not keeping your social media locked down, whether it's meeting strangers, et cetera. And what it does is it educates kids about all the potential dangers that could lead actually to human trafficking. I understand it's a huge problem down here. It's a huge problem across the United States. I don't know how much specifics you guys are aware of, but in 2016, the state of Texas, the University of Texas did a study across the state. It's the only statewide study that's been done. And they estimate that there are 300,000 victims of human trafficking in the state of Texas. And of that, 79,000 they believe are minor sex trafficking victims. So we put together this curriculum so it could actually be used inside of schools to educate kids, parents, teachers about the dangers that can lead you to trafficking. And the experience itself is a completely 3D computer-generated experience that puts you in the shoes of a victim that's inside their home, and she tells you the story about how things happened to her. There's nothing violent or graphic, but it actually makes the materials come to life. Like most of the anti-trafficking curriculum right now is a PowerPoint and possibly even a video, whereas this is a completely interactive experience that kids can have autonomy within. VR has tons of really well-researched effects. It makes kids or people more interested in a topic. It actually creates a lifelong learner. I could give you guys the stats, but I wanted to get a chance to talk to you guys, let you know that we exist. There are already curriculums that are actually accepted in the HISD, and we're going to be working with those guys. So love to tell you guys about what we're doing, or possibly find somebody that's local that would like to discuss this so we can try to get this out to kids here.
Thank you, Mr. King. Appreciate it.
You bet. Thank you.
Next are our information items. The 2017-18 Comprehensive Annual Financial Report. Dr. Dupree.
Yes, sir. We have Stephen Bassett's going to introduce this item, and then he'll turn it over to Whitley Penn.
Thank you, sir. Dr. Dupree, President Burdine, members of the board. We have our outside auditor for his annual visit, Christopher Bro, here to give us a briefing about the audit work that he's done for us. Chris?
I'm on. All
There
right.
you go.
Mr. President, members of the board, Dr. Dupree, thank you for having us out tonight. You have in your packet the final comprehensive annual financial report for Fort Bend Independent School District as of and for the year ended June 30th, 2018. I've prepared a slide presentation here to go over this document that is some 200 pages long. We will not go through each page, but we'll get you through this. You've got this presentation. I'm not going to hit on all the slides. We just talk about our team here and the number of people involved from our side, as well as the folks on your side going through this audit. Required communications. Just want to point out a couple things here. One, that we are your external independent auditors. Your financial statement is full of estimates. One of the big estimates that we're going to talk about tonight are pensions and what we call OPEB, or other post-employment benefits, and things of that nature. We've had no disagreements with management or no difficulties with management in the conduct of our audit. This slide here right now talks about the audit process. There's a number of things that go on to get to our opinion. It involves risk assessment, detailed test of controls, verification and confirmation of information, and substantive analytics. With all of this work that we do over a time period, we come up with the auditor's opinion. Fort Bend Independent School District has an unmodified or clean opinion, which is the highest level of assurance we can give on financial statements. In that, we say that the financial statements, in our opinion, are materially stated. Let's start off and go through the financial statement. You have the statement of net position. This is in thousands. This is your government-wide financial statements with everything you own versus everything you owe. This includes your capital assets. It includes your long-term liabilities. One of the items here, we show 2018, 2017 as restated, as presented, and the change. What happened in 2018 is that you implemented a new standard, accounting standard, government accounting standards, or GASB statement number 75. This deals with other post-employment benefits. And I took the audit committee through a brutal process of explaining it step by step. I do appreciate their patience on that. What this basically does is it carves out the liability associated with post-employment benefits, and this particular case is health care. We have a rather long description here. The OPEB, the liability, the GASB 75, TRS care, liabilities reflected on the district's government-wide financial statements represents a mathematical allocation of the liabilities from the statewide cost-sharing plans. Your allocation, your portion, is determined by dividing the amount of contributions that all plans, including the state pay, actually taking your contributions and dividing that by all the contributions that come in. These liabilities have always existed. They've been reported at the plan level, at the state level. Until the adoption of GASB 75, there was no information available or appropriate method of allocating these liabilities for reporting the financial statements of individual participating entities. As of June 30, the net effect on the district's financial net position for pensions and OPEB liabilities was $94.6 million and $316.9 million respectively, which was a decrease of $73.1 million from the prior year. Let's move to your cash and investments. Cash investments total at year end on page 51 is $274 million, and you can see the different things that you're invested in: treasury bonds, agency securities, and public funds investment pools. About $40 million is left over in cash. Your debt for the year, you had a beginning debt balance of $973 million. You added $395. You retired $305 million. Most of that was in a refunding transaction. So your capital debt at year end is $1,062 million, $1.1 billion. That consists of general obligation bonds of $963.5 million and deferred amounts, premiums and the like, of $99.4 million. The ratio of net bonded debt to total assessed value is 2.67%. If we take a look at this slide, the debt to valuation ratio we just talked about is in the red line there, and you can see that has been dropping, a slight uptick in 2018, and that has been dropping since 2009. Your debt per student is a little under $14,000 per student, and you can see that number too has been dropping. So while it's a large number, it's a reasonable number. If we take a look at the comparison for 5 different districts here: Fort Bend, Alief, Cy-Fair, Katy, and Lamar, we can see the differences in where these numbers of debt per student land. You are the green line running through there. And just to give you an idea, the top 3 lines there of Cy-Fair, Katy, and Lamar are, like you, fast growth districts. Alief gives you an idea of what a district that is not fast growth, is not growing, what that looks like, just so you have some comparison there. Here is your debt to valuation comparison, and you can see that it's dropping, and it gives you an idea of where you stand relating to the Cy-Fair, the Katys, and Lamars of the world. This is your statement of activities in millions. It's a very small, but you can look at it a little bit closer there for the year. Your governmental expenses by function, you had 50% in instruction and 7% in instructional leadership. Student services was 13%. There is a negative, the OPEB, and again, not to bore you to tears, but there's a $120 million negative revenue and expense that hit your financial statement. So I will tell you, as you start progressing through these financial statements, there's going to be some oddities in there. We've added notes to kind of normalize that number so you can use it to compare to the prior year. Let's get to the funds now. The funds is what you're operating on, and you can see you're quite healthy in this area. Here are the comparisons. You can see this comparison on page 144. The first we start off with is the general fund. It went from $185 million to $201 million. Most of that increase came from the unassigned fund balance, the fund balance that is available to spend. Your other governmental funds, you have some restricted for federal and state programs, about $4.4 million. Debt service is right at $65 million, stayed on task with last year. A little bit of committed fund balance for unspent purchase orders, and then encumbrances, and you have unassigned fund balance of negative $64 million, which is your capital project funds, and that is a reflection of you issuing commercial paper during the year to avoid issuing debt too early. And so you're getting a better deal there. It looks a little funny. Your general fund balance as a percentage of general fund expenditures, This includes the green portion is your unassigned fund balance, and then what I like to call the maroon portion here is stabilization commitments. And you can see your district policy is to maintain a 25 and a third fund balance of expenditures, and you're right there, and you have been for the last few years. Little fund balance analysis. Your general fund balance increased $16.4 million to 201 as we talked about it. Your fund balance remains at 2 months of annual expenditures, just where you want it. Committed fund balance with state funding has a balance of $61.8 million. Your property tax revenues for the year increased from $358.9 to $390 million in the general fund as a result of property value increase and a 2% tax increase that you had. When I say that, let's drop down to the debt service fund. It remains stable at $65 million. It represents 77% of your 2019 debt service payments, so that's a healthy fund balance there. You refunded bonds of $209 million during the year, and your property tax revenue decreased from $103 million to $95 million due to a 4-cent decrease in your debt service. So overall, you had a 2-cent 2-cent tax decrease last year. Capital Projects Fund has a deficit fund balance of $64 million. It's expected to be resolved by future bond issues. The deficit fund balance is due to bonds not issued, but they're for unpaid liabilities, like accounts payable. The balance of commercial paper outstanding is $16 million. Construction-related expenditures were $148 million, and you had building bonds of $149 million issued during the year. And that's a lot of numbers. Right now in the internal controls compliance report, we have no findings. This is going to be a separately issued single audit report. We have no findings over internal controls, over financial reporting, no findings to report on compliance, that's procurement issues and the like, and internal control, no findings on internal controls and compliance over major federal programs. You had 4 major federal programs: your child nutrition program, your Title II program, and the 2 that kind of popped in at the last moment there, the Restart Hurricane Grant and the Temporary Emergency Impact Aid for displaced students. So you had 2 extra major programs this year. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you, Mr. Breaux. We appreciate the presentation, and I also wanted to thank you for spending the time with the Internal Audit Committee, excuse me, spending a few hours with us, if I remember that correctly. So I appreciate that. Thanks for the thorough report, and we appreciate your time.
Thank you, sir. If I could,
Please.
I do appreciate the administration providing us the information we need. As I like to say, everyone likes to see the auditor leave. They were very gracious in getting us the information that we needed to audit them, and we do appreciate it.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. President, I would like to acknowledge Kelly Slacks, our Director of Finance. If she would stand up, because this is an annual process we go through, but I'm telling you, it takes her leadership and all the accountants she leads on a very detailed basis every single day for us to get these clean reports. So we have some unsung heroes in our district. She's one of them. Her entire team, they work very hard. They have a big, heavy load to maintain to keep all this up, but they do a phenomenal job. So I want to thank Kelly and her whole team, of course, and her Bob Bryan that she works with, our new executive director, and of course Stephen, our Bassett, our CFO.
Thank you, Dr. Dupree. If I could ask my fellow board members, we're about to convene in closed session, but if we could get back there so we could get through our evening, I'd appreciate it. Next, we will convene in closed session under the Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Governmental Code, Chapter 551, under the following sections, for the purpose of private consultation with the board's attorney on any or all subject matters or matters authorized by law. Section 551.072, consider purchase, exchange, lease, or value of real property, personnel matters, security matters, student discipline matter or complaint, personally identifiable information about public school students. We are now convening closed session.